What I've learned is that technology can go places that missionaries can't. The Great Commission happens in the 21st century through these giant technology platforms. I am not here to talk about AI. So get a little break. I am here to talk about my faith journey through big tech and what I've learned about my mission field. And hopefully, I blow some of your minds about big tech. So let me introduce myself. My name is Robison, and I live in Colorado. My wife, Deb, is here today in the back. We're coming up on 22 years of marriage, which is amazing. Thank you. I can tell I've got a believer audience because they clap for marriage. That's amazing. We have 2 daughters, Abby and Chloe, and we have 3 dogs, Stout, Porter, and Hefeweizen. So you might be able to guess one of our hobbies. My faith story starts with the fact that I grew up agnostic, and that's what that symbol means there. I had a really difficult childhood, and as a teenager, I was very angry and decided to become a full-on atheist. When I was 19, I had an experience that convinced me there was a God, and that he loved me, and that he wanted me to follow him. Now, unfortunately, he neglected to tell me what religion he was. So I explored many religions to try and find God, and I eventually chose the Baha'i faith. Surprising? After 9 months, I felt pulled by the figure of Jesus, and I became a Christian for life. Ever since then, I've been trying to grow closer to him, but I still remain a work in progress. For my career, I've spent 25 years working in technology, mostly as a software engineer and a leader of software engineering teams. A lot of my career was at startups that were bought out or went out of business. One of my career highlights is that I helped open the Austin office for Amazon. More recently, as Mike mentioned, I've co-founded a couple companies, and I've been lucky enough to sold one of them. My last startup was the most ambitious thing I ever tried to build. We built it to be unicorn or bust. And to cut that story short, we went the bust path, despite having a product ahead of its time. Right around the time it was becoming clear that we were not going to get the traction we needed, I had gotten an unsolicited contact from a recruiter at Facebook. I did not have much interest in Facebook because I wasn't a user. I didn't even have an account. In fact, in my friend group, I was known as the non-Facebook guy. And I didn't really love social media. But after spending 7 years starting companies, I hadn't actually interviewed in a long time, and I knew I was going to have to interview. So to get interview practice and out of curiosity of the culture, I decided to take the interview. I ended up getting the offer, but I politely turned them down. I didn't want to go to Facebook because I was ready to be a CTO at a different startup. Startups are fun, they're fast-paced, and if I'm being honest with myself, not having a real boss really helps a control freak like me. But for the first time in my life, I opened up my job search to God fully. When my company closed, it was a perfect opportunity to give it all to God. I explicitly asked him to close doors that should be closed and open doors that should be open for him. The interviews went well. I made it to the final round of a company that I was a perfect fit to lead. But at the last minute, their VC made them take somebody they didn't want. That was a door closed. I got an offer at another company that was perfect, but something nagged at me and just felt off about the people or the environment. So I didn't want to do that. That was another door closed. I also got an offer to make more than I've ever made in my life, working for one of Austin's billionaires, and I was ready to take the job. It didn't feel perfect, but it felt like a great opportunity, so I decided to take it. I told my wife, Deb, that I would accept the offer in the morning, and the door was wide open. That night, Deb could not sleep, and she was nagged by something at the company. She tried to put it out of her mind, but it would not go away. So she did some late-night internet sleuthing on the company while I was sleeping. Based on what she learned, it was clear I would be heading in a really bad ethical and personal direction. So when I woke up that morning, I found my sleep-deprived wife with a mountain of evidence why I shouldn't go. I still took the meeting with the company, but I declined the offer. door closed. All throughout these experiences, Facebook continued to reach out and offer people to talk to as a way to sell me on their company. I finally relented and agreed to talk to who would be my boss and who would be his boss. They turned out to be really great people. They gave me a glimpse of a culture that was pretty surprising in Silicon Valley, where people could be both smart, accomplished, amazing at their craft, and yet kind, curious, and pretty easy to work with. My experience in tech companies where the people who were the best engineers had earned the right to be a jerk, and the rest of us just had to put up with it. Compared to this, Facebook sounded like Nerdtopia. Even more importantly, it was clear at this point that God was finally holding this door open and closing the ones I really wanted to walk through. So I finally gave up and I said yes to Facebook. When I did, I got a strong sense of spiritual comfort, which was super confusing because I never believed Facebook could play a role in God's kingdom. Maybe some of you agree. When I came to the company, I saw confirmation of the kind but intense culture I'd been sold on. During onboarding, the company said it highly valued internal communities and encouraged us to join one. There were all sorts of communities out there based on race, gender, different faiths. So I took what my primary identity is and I typed Christian into the search box. To my surprise, I found that there was already an internal group of Christians. In fact, it was a thriving group spread across 5 continents. On day 1 of Facebook, I finally realized what God was doing putting me there. So I attended a local Bible study in Austin, and I found a diverse set of people that were all unified in Jesus, despite their different faith backgrounds. As the years went on, and Facebook became Meta, I got more involved with the Bible study, eventually leading it, and then all the Austin Christians. Last year, I joined the Global Christian Leadership Group, and I eventually became co-lead of all the Christians at Meta. And this is not a small group either. If we were a church, we would be in the top 1% of churches in the US. That's megachurch territory. Isn't that surprising? It surprised me. And what's even more surprising is that this is not just a Meta thing. All the giant tech companies you've heard of have thriving Christian communities as well. I have met so many leaders from Google, Amazon, LinkedIn, Apple, and many well-known tech companies. What I've learned is that technology can go places that missionaries can't. The Great Commission happens in the 21st century through these giant technology platforms. It's made me realize that God is using these companies even if they don't know they're being used. So I want to tell you a few faith stories. God has really, really worked in amazing ways through these Christian communities. There's just too many stories to go through, but I'm going to give you a few. During COVID, I don't know if any of you all remember that, but people couldn't go to church in person. But Facebook Live and YouTube were there to support the Christian communities. Facebook took notice of this explosive growth in the Christian community, and it may come as a surprise to you, but Facebook even rolled out a prayer feature in 2021. Any Facebook group could turn on this feature and allow people to ask for prayers, and anybody else could mark when they had prayed for them. It's amazing. That was on Facebook. When the tech industry went through layoffs in 22 and 23, the Christian groups at the tech companies got together to support, pray, and reground what our foundation really is. It's not the companies we work for, it's Jesus. Some of these groups met every day and actually prayed live as these layoff emails came in. We had a revival of a group in Dublin. It was amazing. I've gotten together with the Christian leaders at the other companies and just heard so many miracles of what God has done through these communities. Just a couple stories. One time, a security guard heard some noise and heard people worshiping, and he came in to see what was going on. The Christians there asked him if he needed any prayer requests, and he complained about a persistent pain in his shoulder. So they all prayed over him, they put hands on his shoulder, and he said that miraculously the pain had disappeared. A little bit closer to my home, there was another instance where there was a software engineer that had a major code problem that he could not figure out. He had worked on the problem for a very long time, and it was getting to the point that he thought he was going to lose his job. He went to a Christian retreat that we had sponsored, and during the retreat, he prayed for deliverance from this problem. That night, when he was sleeping, he thought of a solution in his mind. When he implemented it, it It was a simple 2-line change that ended up not only solving his problem, but making a giant impact that saved the company millions of dollars. Another amazing story is that a billionaire C-level executive at one of these companies met with church leaders to help inform the company's product. Later, that person was asked to go to church with them. That billionaire had never been to church, not once. But they decided to go. They agreed to go. After church, those same church leaders prayed over the executive, and the person broke down in tears. They said nobody had ever prayed for them before. It's amazing. In a place of intense pressure and stress, as big tech is, sometimes the Bible studies and the Christian get-togethers are the only places people can share their real selves and express their fears and anxieties in a welcome and non-judgmental atmosphere. This is the only place they have to talk about faith and the hardship of their work. I have seen so many people come to faith, grow their faith, and deepen their faith through the communities at all these different companies. Now, in the past, I said I've been in the tech field for 25 years. In the past, I always thought work and faith had to be separate. To be successful, I thought I had to keep that part of myself hidden. The most I ever did in the past was I held secret lunchtime meetings to study the Bible. I was scared to let my faith affect my career, and I was scared at how people would treat me if they knew I was a Christian. I don't know if anybody here has ever seen the TV show Silicon Valley. It is surprisingly accurate about the tech industry. Here's what they said about working at technology companies. You can be openly polyamorous, and people here will call you brave. You can put microdoses of LSD in your cereal, and people will call you a pioneer. But the one thing you can never be is a Christian. But now, in the face of that, this is the first time in my life, my work life, that I am fully known as a Christian. My boss and her organizational chain know that I'm a Christian. All my teams know that I'm a Christian. My business partners know that I'm a Christian. It has given me freedom to be myself, to reach people at work, and to further glorify God with the majority of my waking hours. Being Christian has also created a safe spot where other people can approach me and ask me questions. Through this experience, I learned that my personal ministry was bigger than the short-term mission trips I went on, the new people I met at church, the small groups I was part of, and the things I volunteered for. For those of us not called to work in the international mission field, we need to realize that our everyday life is our mission field. So since you are leaders in your ministries, and you have people like me in the marketplace who donate and consume your content, I have a request for you. Spread the word. Your mission field is all around you. It's at the grocery store. It's at your kid's school. It's on that social media post that angers you. It's in the traffic jam. It's at your job. Now, we don't have to tell people they're going to hell or force them into hearing about the Roman road, but we are called to be upfront about our belief in Jesus. And we are called to represent him well. If people know that we believe in Jesus, every single thing we do will affect their opinion of Jesus. Now, the question is it a positive effect or a negative effect? I think we all know that sometimes the biggest enemies to the spread of Christianity are Christians. I don't think anybody said it than the great Gandhi himself, who said, "I like your Christ. I do not like your Christians. Your Christians are so unlike your Christ." But if we are salt and light, and every day we get closer to emulating Jesus, our lives themselves will attract people to him. It is not hard, but it does mean being intentional and public about your faith to show people Jesus through yourself. So please, spread the word. Your mission field is all around you. Thank you.